Welcome, everyone, to another RLT Pivot podcast. So grateful that you can be here today. And just before we get started, a reminder that if you find value in what we are doing here, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. And the chat is live. So if you have any questions for our very own special guest, Mr. Jeremy Alexander Newsom, please throw them into that chat below and we'll get to them as soon as we possibly can. All right, Dan, welcome. What are we doing today?
What is up, Tracy? Thanks for the introduction. And we got my friend and mentor. Probably needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. We got Jeremy Newsom on to make some magic happen. What is going on? Jeremy's in Tahoe too. How's Tahoe going?
Oh my gosh, guys. So this is like the most excited I've ever been to be on a podcast because it's our podcast. It's so cool. We got the logos everywhere, repping the RL, seeing Tracy. She's beautiful. Seeing Dan. Bro, I love you guys so much. Tahoe is going phenomenal. So we're at the Lake Tahoe retreat right now, and over 40 people from all around the world are here and participating in just a life-changing week of love, outpouring of unconditional greatness, merriment, happiness, and obviously trading and really getting a great grasp on the markets and trends and candles and sentiment and patterns. And it's been awesome.
Awesome, man. Yeah,
That is so cool.
I'm getting that FOMO from not going this time, but I'll see you guys at the next retreat for sure.
Yeah,
I see all the pictures. I'm like, oh, getting jealous. But yeah, we got you on to really talk about what to do with seven figures, how to grow that portfolio. And I'm guessing a lot of people have the question before getting to seven figures, how do you get to that point? What are some of the trick strategies that we do to take a basic account and kind of grow that out to get to the next step of what to do with a seven-figure portfolio?
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, it's a great question. And I think a lot of people might initially be overwhelmed with, oh, okay, I'm never going to have $1 million portfolio. That'll never happen to me ever. And I like to challenge people with thinking about what it means to be a millionaire or a liquid millionaire, because we all are going to have our own definitions of this. So here's just an example. Let's say that someone has a $300,000 account. They might not say that, hey, I have $1 million. I'm not a millionaire. Well, technically, if you margin that, right, you have $600,000 for swing trading and you have 1.2 million for day trading. So by all definitions, you are a liquid millionaire. You have access to a liquid $1 million of buying power. So that can change a lot of people's mindset. When you're like, wait, whoa. I don't want it to be that easy though. Like that doesn't count. It needs to be my bank account. I'm like, oh, okay. We didn't say that. You didn't say you had to have $1 million in your bank account. Like that's just a whole different definition. So it is a mindset thing, man. It's a belief thing. Because for me, the way I started doing it was obviously slowly building it up after, everyone knows my story. I lost all my dad's money and, over $250,000 of other people's money. And the only way you build up that kind of capital that quickly is you go get access to a lot of capital. So if you have a house, for example, let's say that house has equity, right? Could you use a home equity line of credit to trade with? And some people are like, no, that's insane. That's crazy. You should never do that. That's illegal. It's horrible. Well, it's possible, right? It's extremely possible. And the interest rate on most Helocs are somewhere between 5 and 7%. So if you can make more than that in the course of a year, it pays for itself.
So true, right? I mean, that's on any kind of loan, any way of borrowing money.
Yeah.
As long as
Yeah.
you can make more, then it makes sense. If you can't, then it doesn't make sense.
Right,
So,
absolutely,
yeah.
and so that's what I did. Is I went out and just borrowed a bunch of money, a lot more money, like to go get that money back. Like you can't make $100,000 with $10. Like it doesn't work. You got to go get access to more capital, and I mean, sell your car, or go sell a product to someone, or a class, coaching packages, a book, a video game, a board game, doesn't matter. Like any business owner that, let's say that they sell cupcakes, Tracy, okay? And you go up to this business owner and you go, I'm going to go help you sell a lot more cupcakes. That business owner will reward you monetarily, right? And so that's what I did. I went to other companies that had things and was like, hey, let me go help you sell more of these things to people because I'm okay at sales. And I love connecting people with what they need. And Tracy, if I help sell $100,000 worth of products that company's going to give me a split of that commission. Like, that's just the way it works. So go challenge yourself to build up that portfolio by creating value for the world and selling something that might make other people happy or might make their life better, or just go get access to additional capital that is laying around somewhere in your life.
Fair enough. Now, this conversation kind of begs for the question, if you don't build your account that way and you just rely on your trading, can you still reach that goal of becoming a liquid millionaire?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's the best question yet, because then the way is you have to really, really focus on the absolute best trades possible.
Right.
And when you do that, you allow yourself a certain amount of trades. And generally, you do it with either options or lower price stocks, since lower price stock can accelerate a lot quicker. And so you're focusing on stocks that are somewhere between $20 and $50, potentially, or even less than that. Maybe you're only doing stocks that are $5 or $10 because you can buy a lot more shares. And so if it moves, right, you buy 1,000 shares of a $5 stock and it moves up $5, you make 5 grand. Well, you start doing that 3 or 4 times, you start doing it on margin, then it can really, really ratchet up pretty quickly. So the answer is yes, absolutely. Like, if you don't do it from outside sources and you only give yourself either you give yourself the challenge, because that's really what it is. You want, and you're picking one way to make money. So if you're choosing that one way, the only way that you're going to select is going to grow it from stocks or from options. My suggestion is it's really, really patiently waiting for phenomenal trades, and you take probably 3 or 4 a month max.
Right.
And when you do, you sling that hammer down and you really, really hold on to that trade. And if it all works, then great. If it doesn't, you still lose small, and just keep waiting, keep being patient.
And I guess the other aspect of it is, I mean, you can look at it from borrowing money to build your account and then accelerating that growth. You can also look at it from the perspective that you're going to be actually trading your account. And that's how you're going to build your account. And instead of drawing from that account, any money that you're earning is actually paying your regular living expenses. And that's kind of the way that I do it right now. I'm not really drawing from my account. I'm building that portfolio until I get to a certain level, and then I'll pull some money out and pay whatever I need to pay. But I'm working, all my side hustles are paying all my living expenses, so I don't have to rely on
Yeah,
my portfolio. Or
precise.
yeah, or if you've got an account and you're relying on that for your income, then that's a different perspective as well. So
Totally.
yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Now, realistically, if you were to build it organically, what kind of estimates would you say?
I think realistically it takes about 3 years, and just as a really good perspective. So let's say you're starting with $10,000. I turned last year $60,000 into 800,000. And the way I did it, and the way other traders can do it, is options. Like, you need options, and you have to really, really, really focus on a targeted, specific type of trade setup. The one I can think of right now is Nvidia. So if you guys are looking at your charts, of course, everyone out there is, pull up Nvidia. The very last day in May, early June, you start getting some really, really small bear candles with really high bear volume, and they start announcing the stock split, and all that bear volume gets trapped. All the shorts start squeezing it out. They announce the split. It breaks out of a distribution phase. It's Nvidia. Earnings is coming up, and it starts really skyrocketing. Well, just a few months ago, if you had really known and leveraged down and maybe bought $10,000 worth of out of money options, right? Your worst case scenario, if it expires worthless, is you lose 10 grand. Well, if it works, you could make 60, right? It's like, okay,
Mhm.
cool. So you 6x that money. If you take 60 and you 6x that, right? I mean, that's 500,000 almost right there. So just two really, really, really focused trades that you're like, this is gonna be a great setup. And if it's not, you get out and you lose $4 or $5,000 and move on. So yeah, that's the thing, is absolutely it can be done. If you're very, very, very good at chart reading, and you'll know when to wait and when to really sling it down. I think it will take a little bit less than 3 years, but I think 3 years is a realistic high time frame to go from 10 to a million if you are using options and you are leveraging them the appropriate way at the appropriate time.
Right.
Perfect. Perfect.
Now, obviously, it's different when you have a small account. You're trying to get a little bit more aggressive. You're trying to wait for those certain plays. let's say that happens, you get there, you're at that 7-figure number. It's a lot harder to go 6x $1 million than it is to go 6x $10, right? It's just conceptually different. The loss, the emotions are a lot different in both scenarios. What are what are some of the strategies that you would implement once you get to that level of 7 figures?
Yeah, brother, it's a phenomenal question, and my opinion is one of my favorite quotes: "Concentrate to get rich, diversify to stay wealthy." And it comes our opinions dictate what wealth is monetarily. Like we get to choose that number, but the traders that I work with, and myself included, like when you're working with millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars, even hundreds of millions of dollars, I really absolutely do select and suggest using options as leverage. So when I say options as leverage, I'm trading stock primarily, and I'm using options as protection. I'm growing the stock account by buying great companies at great prices and holding on to those companies. So Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, you can be in the large companies. 60%, at least 60% of my portfolio, large portfolio, will be in large, massive cap companies. So these are companies that are unbreakable baskets, in my opinion. These are companies that will not be at zero in 10 years. So these are massive companies that I have the majority of my holdings in, as you're growing and expanding and building a 7-figure portfolio. And then you really are able to, you feel more confident about putting $300,000 in Apple, for example. I mean, you're not going to stress out about it because it's Apple, right? They're worth $2 trillion. Your 300,000 is nothing. So you're more comfortable doing that. So you can put in larger amounts of money. So rather than putting into something like Blue Apron, right, you're buying Google or Microsoft, and you're leveraging more money that way. Coca-Cola or Pepsi, right? You're putting more money at it. Starbucks, and McDonald's, you're putting more money in those. And then once you get positive equity, you start implementing collars, right? Selling covered calls and buying protective puts, because then that buys you peace of mind. And it also buys you really nice returns. Because when you're talking about, let's say $3 million, guys, making 10% a month on $3 million is very doable with the right stocks. And you don't have to be anything crazy. It can be in Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft. And with options and covered calls and protective puts and like a little bit of good timing, you can make 4 to 5% a month just from selling call options, right? Just from selling call options. And that's huge. I mean, that's 120 grand of call option sales on a $3 million account if you're doing 4% a month. It's possible, right? So we have to let ourselves believe it. And we also have to know that in real life trading, yes, we might have traders that have a $100 account and a $1,000 account, but we also have traders that have $100 million accounts here.
Mhm.
And it's okay to embrace that. And it's okay to learn from them. And it's okay to pick their brains and go, okay, cool. Once we're there, what do we do? And then, yeah, you can use real estate, right? You can use REITs, real estate investment trusts, that you can invest in and be a part of those, right? You can be in those, and that's absolutely okay. Like those give really good dividends. So many great ways, but you are playing with bigger companies, at least with 60% of your portfolio. Then 40% of is the remaining 30%. It's going to be in like mid cap to growth companies, maybe companies that haven't been around that long that could have a lot of explosive growth. Let's say, for example, Upwork, Peloton, and Jumia, right? JMIA. And you start allocating a little bit more of your portfolio to some high flyer, a little bit more volatile stocks. And then 10% of your portfolio can be a little bit more excitable, right? You're trading options, you're trading credit spreads, you're trading put sales, you're trading low floats, you're day trading. You can be a little bit more aggressive with some of that risk capital, but you got that 60% that's really going to allow you to carve out those big wins with some constant cash flow. Is exciting.
Hmm. That's very good points. Good points. Now, what I'm hearing so far takes a little bit of skill. So I'm assuming that what we're talking about are traders with large accounts that have some trading experience. What about the ones that come in with large accounts that have no trading experience?
Which is a lot of people, by the way, Tracy. Like that's our main clientele, ironically enough, is the traders that they have a few million or a few 100,000. And they're like, no idea what to do. I got like some money in a 401k and an IRA, and I don't know what to do. So you absolutely need some education. Like, I mean, you have to spend two things every aspect in life. You're either spending money or you're spending time. If you can tell me something that you can spend without spending either money or time, please let me know so I can invest all of my time and money into that thing. But yeah, spend some time and some money, because let's say you have $1 million account. And I was actually working with a client. His name is Josh Tracy. He has a million and some change in Tesla, and he had never spent money on coaching before, and he was really kind of like scared and hesitant to do it. And our conversation was, listen, brother, is it like if you spend $1,000 on a pack of 3 coaching sessions in a mentorship group with Tracy or Dan or myself or Matt or whoever else, that's 0.01%. Like that's such a small thing. I was like, with one really good trade and with one appropriately placed timing, setup, you can make tens of thousands within hours. I was like, it's literally worth your time to do that investment. So yeah, I mean, obviously it goes without saying, but you got to educate yourself. And sure, you're going to make some mistakes. That's okay. That's part of the game. But you have to realize that you are smart enough and that you do have the time. Most of my millionaires that we work with, Tracy, together, they are really afraid of the time constraint, because they got kids, they got family, they have businesses, they have real estate, they have all these things that they're dealing with. Like, I don't have the time to do it. We literally have a robot that will trade for you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like, come on, you have the time. We all have the time. Let's just remove that excuse and figure out what it is that you want to do with your time and your money. And then if we want to do something big, we can do that.
I was thinking about this today, ironically, but I was contemplating why money can sometimes be difficult to give, right? And I realize that for myself, I am very generous with my time, not as generous with my money. And I have a ton of time that just seems to come and I'm able to give. So that whole philosophy of, what you give, you just comes to you.
Oh,
But I
yes.
wanted to know, why is money such a challenge to be, like, for me anyway? And the thought that came up to me was that it's because people don't demand time of me, but they demand money of me. So, for example, bills, whatever, there's a demand for my money. And I think when you start to become liquid with your finances and you become millionaires, all of a sudden there's a shift from that dollar being demanded from you to your time. All of a sudden there's that constraint and your time is being demanded on. And now it becomes an issue with, I don't have time. And that's that shift in what we're talking about. And it just a thought that came to my mind today. And I thought it was really interesting that you brought it up right now. So
That's such a vulnerable thing to bring up, and I really appreciate that point, because that's so true. That statement that you made, the more you give, the more you receive. That's with everything. And I think this is just my opinion, of course. I think it's a right opinion, though. Money is our least valuable asset in our lives as humans, but most of us think it's our most important. I'll give you an example, Tracy. Ready? You have a son.
mhm.
Let's say something, this is would never happen, hopefully, thankfully, but let's say something happens to your son and you need to spend $1 million to save his life. How quick do you get the money?
Oh, can you lend it to me? I'd be
I would. I,
stealing, and borrowing for it. So it
but
pretty
you're
quick.
getting, but you're getting it, right? Like
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
you're, yeah. No, you physically wouldn't get that money. Like you would borrow from me or someone else, but you would get it. So with that being the case, right, you're not concerned about that money anymore. Now it's your son's life. Like his that's an asset though. Right? Your son's life is an asset to your life much more than money is. And time is probably our number one asset. And it's the one that we don't view the most as an asset. And so we'll view time as least of an asset as opposed to money, because a lot of people will go, well, if I have tons and tons and tons of money, then I'll be free. Right? It's like, well, just be free now and then get the money later. Right? Like, just start working on that right now. Like, get your freedom now, freedom of your mind, freedom of your heart, freedom of your relationships, being very happy. That was one of the things that changed my life the most. As I worked with someone very special to me, and she said, what's the definition of life for you, Jeremy? And this was about 2 years ago. And I said, the definition of life is the pursuit of happiness. I was like, what a great thing, right? Good to go pursue happiness. We all want happiness. Let's go pursue it. And she said, are you tired of pursuing happiness? Are you ready just to have happiness? Is it
Mm.
the time in your life just to be happy rather than pursue it? And that broke my brain for months. Like that broke my brain. I was like, oh my gosh, that explains so much. So no, it's a really, really long answer to the question of yes, Tracy, for sure. Like when you're talking about money and time, money is our least valuable asset. So if we can make that mindset shift, we can easily get more, because if we start giving more, you find ways to give more money, to tip more, to help more, to provide more, to charge more, to whatever more, you will get more money in your life naturally. It just happens that way. And then you'll start having more money and you'll be able to trade better. And you trade better, you'll probably be happier. And if you're happier, then you'll probably get more money in your life, because happy people attract money. And if you have more money, you'll trade better. And if you trade better, you become happier. It's just like a really cool cycle that happens.
So then that shift also needs to it has to apply to time as well, because there that old saying where time is money, right? So that same shift. So even if people have a lot of money and now they're finding restraints on their time and they don't have time to invest in themselves or invest in coaching or learning or whatever to help them get more money, whatever it might be, that's that same shift. You've just changed it from money to time, and it's kind of a synonym for each other, right?
Precisely. You're
Yeah.
100% correct. You're
Yeah.
correct. Because
I
the
have
million that comes before the millionaire bank account or the millionaire trading account.
There you go.
so I have just from people that I talk to, people that I deal with. Some of them, like you said, they're below the seven figures. Some people are above it. Generally, there's a general fear at both levels. And if I'm not mistaken, you've had the luxury to live on both sides. I don't think you were rolled out of the hospital in a stroller when you were born, just rolling in money. And I think you're doing pretty okay now. So I think you've got the opportunity to live both sections. What is the fear that would hold somebody back from, number one, achieving that seven figure, and then what is the fear that they face when they're at that level and they almost can't believe that they're there, and it's just overwhelming, and how do I expand it? And there's a fear that I think a lot of people have to kind of overcome. What do you think? How would you address that?
Dang, dude. So I'm having a conference on the question you just asked. I'm having a 4-day event called Money Grows on Trees in the Turks and Caicos, and it's sold out. But so this is not a sales pitch. It's just me telling people, bro, that's such a phenomenally, insanely good question. Because as you know, Dan, the quality of your questions determines the quality of your life. And when you start asking questions like that, bro, we're talking big mental changes come now. Because number one, not only did I not have a stroller full of money, I don't think my mom even bought a stroller ever. Like, I don't think we had enough money to buy, the mat that I slept on in kindergarten was cardboard. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't have money for a very, very long time in my life. But when you're talking about the fears, the very first fear of getting the $1 million account, the first fear in order to do that is you're going to have to leave people that are close to you. That's the number one fear. People are not going to love you anymore who are currently in your life. Could be a husband or wife, could be a friend, it's probably a family member. It's someone close to you. Someone who you think subconsciously, this is not a conscious thought. This is something that you think about when you dream probably. Is if you make tons and tons of money, then your relationship with that person will separate for whatever reason. And that's up to you guys to kind of think about like what reason that be. So for me, my fear of doing it, Dan, was if I become really rich, then all of my friends who are poor right now are going to ask me for money. And I'm probably going to have to say no. And then I'm a jerk and a dick face. And that people aren't going to like me anymore. And so I want to be liked. So it's easier not to get money so that I can stay liked by all my poor friends.
Mhm.
So that was my mentality a decade ago. Now, now that I'm a multimillionaire and I spend time with people that I love and I cherish, and I pour in, and I'm able to donate hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to charities and to causes and to causations and to impact people in the world and really, live vibrantly. The fear that people have when we're in this environment is that we're not good enough and that we're going to lose it all. Because a lot of people go, well, I worked all this time and energy and money and I had to make all these sacrifices. I don't want to lose it all now. And so you lose the hunger that you once had to get it, to expand it, because you're like, well, if I lose it, then all this is nothing. My life is a ruin and I'm a failure. And
It's not even the losing of the money though. It's even a fear of you going back to where you were,
yeah,
right?
yep, agreed. And that's one part of the fear. And when I talk to certain people, they realize like, okay, that once they realize that'll never happen, like they'll probably never, like you'll never really be able to go back to how poor you were. Like you'll just go get a job that pays well that you'll never, like I'll never be as poor as I was when I was 16. Like that just will never happen. It's impossible. But I could lose a lot of money. So then you have the quote by Marianne Williamson, right? It's not our fear of failure, it's our fear that we are powerful beyond all measure. It's not our darkness that we're afraid of, it's our light. So a lot of people become afraid of things that we don't know, Tracy and Dan, because we've never experienced it. So when you don't experience something, you become afraid of it. So I don't know if anyone here has ever experienced a $400,000 tax bill. But if you haven't ever experienced that, well, that's the fear that you have. Because if you don't experience something, it's because you're afraid of it. If you don't experience something, it's because you've never had it in your life. So if it's hard to imagine, then it's hard to have. And that's what we need to do is we need to start imagining and dreaming of the things that we can have when we are ultra successful, because it allows us to see that it's possible. And if we can see that it's possible, then it's obtainable.
Let's attack that tax bill for a second because I want to bring another perspective onto that. Have we ever had a tax bill? I mean, when you pay your taxes, okay, when you have a job and you get your tax bill, it's always reflective of your income. It's always payable. Now, the surprises that come are when people don't plan for it, and then boom, they get hit with this big tax bill. But the reality is, it was always there, and it was in proportion to the income that they made. And if you spent your income before you actually paid for your taxes, that's where it becomes the shock. But the idea of getting a $2,000 tax bill based on your current income, I can totally understand getting a $400,000 tax bill because that mean I made a heck of a lot of money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah,
One
fair enough.
percent correct. And sometimes we just have to live in those moments where we think of those things and we plan for those things. And it really is about magic, right? It's about sitting down and allowing yourself to be a magician, to be a wizard, to be someone that can create a really cool life that you're excited about, that fulfills you, that motivates you, that moves you, but scares you so much. You got to be scared, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit. Like if you have $4 million in your account and your R is $100, you're trading out of fear still that you're going to
Mm.
lose. So it's time to step up. Speaking of being a wizard, I know we're about to go. Would you guys like to see a magic trick?
Yes.
Boom, pin.
Oh man.
All right, that is just epic. That is epic. We're gonna have to have an RLT Magic show. We're gonna have to do that. Okay, we'll do that.
Beard.
That's awesome. Now, before I let Dan take this away, for all of you traders that are out there, we've talked about options a little bit. We've also talked a lot about mindset. Now, we do have some free options information on our YouTube channel that you can check out. There's lots of videos that are there, but we also have a wonderful course called Hedging with Options. Highly recommend it. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is Jeremy. He is a mentor. He's the CEO of RLT. If you don't know who that is yet, this is him. And he's incredible and wonderful. He does have a mentorship available, so check it out. He doesn't offer them very often. He's in high demand, so if you get a chance. Otherwise, we have a bunch of other mentors that can help you get through all of these different things we've talked about today. Check us out on our site. The other thing that I want to mention is we have the real life trading transformations coming up soon. The registration is available online. That is going to hit you with the mindset and incredible. It's going to sell out quick. So check it out if you're interested in learning some of the things we've talked about today. And other than that, Dan, we're
Yeah.
good. Take us
Jeremy,
away.
the one thing I would say, Jeremy, is I just wish there was a place we could go on real life trading and be able to experience everything for free for like a full week. Have you ever considered doing something like that before?
You've asked me so many times to do it. I thought, what would be best is if next week, literally next week, if you were watching right now live, that is July. I'm gonna have to check my watch. So July 18th, 19th, that whole week, we're gonna do a live trading room. And you're going to get to experience Dan Jansen, Johnny Guarco, Tony Pollard, Robert Falco, probably Yates, probably Steven, probably Thomas, probably Tracy. And hopefully I have the opportunity to be there as well. And by hopefully I will. I'll absolutely be there. And I want to pour into people. I want to enrich some lives. We're going to do it together, team. We're going to change minds. We're going to change mindsets, and we're going to grow bank accounts, and we're going to give, and we're going to give and live generously. So I'm very, very thrilled about it, Dan. Thank you for bringing it up, brother.
Awesome. And how many likes we got? You guys got to run those likes up. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to the Real Life Trading YouTube channel. Don't forget, August 5th, we do have our game show, Real Life Trading game show here on the Pivot Podcast. You guys do have an opportunity to be a contestant on that show as well. There's a couple of rules. If you go to reallifetrading.com, just click on the Pivot Podcast homepage. You'll see all the details as to how to become a guest on that episode. I think, Jeremy, I think this is the quietest I've ever personally been because I just love hearing you speak, man. I'm just like, why do I don't need to talk. I just need to absorb the wisdom. Tracy, thank you for co-hosting. Thank you guys all for joining us. And we will see you guys next week. Love you guys all.
Later.
Love you all.